The Deep Space Monitoring Station on Earth's moon was usually a quiet place. Most days, the staff just watched the stars and listened to the endless static of space. But today was different. Very different. Robert Miller had worked at the station for 15 years, and he had never seen anything like the signal that now flashed on his screen. It was 3 a.m. Earth time when the quantum encrypted message arrived, bypassing all known communication channels. "Sir," Robert called out, his voice shaking slightly. "You need to see this." Admiral James walked over, his coffee cup still steaming. He was an older man with gray hair and eyes that had seen humanity's first steps into deep space. "What have you got, Miller?" "A signal, sir, but it's not using any known frequency, and it's coming from everywhere at once." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. He set down his coffee and leaned over the console. The message was repeating in perfect universal standard, a language humanity had only recently learned existed. Urgent to all Class 12 Deathworlder species. The allied galaxies need your help. We are under attack. Coordinates attached. Time is critical. Please respond. Admiral James read the message 3 times. Earth had only learned about the galactic classification system 2 years ago, when their first deep space probes had picked up alien signals. They had been shocked to learn that Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, the highest possible rating. Most civilized worlds were Class 3 or below. "Get me the President," Admiral James ordered, "and wake up the Joint Chiefs, all of them." Within an hour, the Emergency Response Center beneath Washington, D.C. was filled with military leaders, scientists, and government officials. The message played on the main screen as experts argued about its authenticity. "It has to be a trap," General Thompson said, his fists clenched on the table. "Why would advanced alien civilizations need our help?" Dr. Laura Peters, the head of xenobiology, spoke up. "Because they're different from us. Most species evolved on peaceful worlds with stable environments. They never needed to develop our aggressive traits." The president looked tired but focused. "What exactly makes Earth a Class 12 death world?" Dr. Peters brought up a holographic display. "Everything, Mr. President. Our gravity is 1.5 times stronger than most inhabited worlds. Our atmosphere is thick with oxygen, making fires common. We have extreme temperature variations, natural disasters, and more apex predators than any known inhabited planet. Simply put, we're space orcs." The room fell quiet as more data poured in through the quantum channel. Images and videos showed entire solar systems being stripped of resources by what looked like massive insect-like ships moving in perfect synchronization. The aliens called them the Unity, a hive mind species that consumed everything in its path. The allied species are mostly Class 3 to Class 5 worlders, Admiral James explained, pointing to the data. "They evolved past physical combat millions of years ago. They don't even have immune systems like ours anymore. Their bodies never needed to fight." The president stood up, walking to the window that showed the dawn breaking over the Capitol. "And how many human-level worlds are there?" "According to this data," Dr. Peters said, checking her tablet, "we're the only currently active Class 12 civilization in the known galaxy. The others either destroyed themselves or evolved past their aggressive traits." The room burst into arguments again. Some wanted to ignore the call, focusing on Earth's own problems. Others saw an opportunity to join the galactic community. A few worried about the military implications of helping or not helping. The president raised his hand for silence. "Can we verify this signal?" "Yes, sir," Robert Miller spoke up from the video feed. "The quantum encryption is beyond our technology. This is real." The president looked at the images of burning worlds and suffering aliens once more. Then he straightened his tie and turned to face the room. "Humanity has always wondered if we're alone in the universe. Now we know we're not. And our first real contact with alien life is them asking for our help." He paused, looking each person in the eye. We kept our fighting spirit while others evolved past it. Maybe this is why. Launch the fleet. Admiral James nodded, already reaching for his phone. Across the planet, mothballed warships would soon roar back to life. Humanity was going to war among the stars, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The universe had called for help. The Deathworlders would answer. The massive hangar doors hadn't opened in 15 years. They groaned in protest as sunlight poured in for the first time since the Third Solar War. Inside, rows of battleships stretched as far as the eye could see, their dark hulls covered in dust. Captain Marcus stood at the entrance, his breath visible in the cold mountain air. The underground fleet base in Colorado had been his first posting as a young officer. Now he was back, but everything was different. Status report, he called out to his team. Sir, we've got power flowing to all 30 main vessels, Lieutenant Roy reported, checking his tablet. Life support systems are online. But he hesitated. Speak freely, Lieutenant. Sir, these ships are old. They're kinetic weapon platforms, railguns, and mass drivers. The aliens we're going to help probably have energy weapons that make these look like slingshots. Captain Marcus smiled. Maybe. But sometimes old ways work best. Get them ready. Teams of engineers swarmed over the ships like ants, replacing power cores and checking weapon systems. The HFY Terminus, Marcus's flagship, was the largest vessel in the fleet. Its main gun could accelerate a 20-ton tungsten rod to 30% of light speed, enough to crack a small moon. In the command center, Marcus watched the preparation feeds. Every major military base on Earth was doing the same thing, awakening sleeping giants of war. The ships had been built during humanity's darkest hour, when they thought they might have to fight for survival in the solar system. Now they would fight for survival in the galaxy. Captain, a voice called from the door. Dr. Peters from Xenobiology walked in, carrying a stack of data tablets. We've analyzed more of the alien transmissions. You need to see this. The displays lit up with images of alien weapons, beautiful beams of energy that could cut through force fields like butter. But something caught Marcus's eye. Play that battle footage again, he said, pointing to a screen. They watched as an alien ship's energy weapon bounced harmlessly off the Unity's shields. That's why they need us, Dr. Peters explained. The Unity adapted to energy weapons. Their shields are nearly perfect against them, but they never faced anything like our ships. Marcus picked up one of the tungsten rounds from a nearby table. It was basic physics. No energy shield could stop that much mass moving that fast. Sometimes the simplest solution was the best one. The next few days were a blur of activity. The fleet had to be made space-worthy again, crews had to be trained, and supplies had to be loaded. Many of the crew were young. They had never seen actual combat, but they worked with determination, knowing the fate of multiple civilizations might depend on them. A week after the signal arrived, the fleet was ready. The HFY Terminus rose from its underground hangar on pillars of fire, its dark hull gleaming in the sunrise. Across the planet, other ships joined it in orbit, 50 of humanity's most powerful vessels. On the bridge of the terminus, Captain Marcus watched Earth grow smaller below them. The crew was nervous but focused. They had trained for space combat, but no human had ever fought an alien species before. Sir, Lieutenant Roy called out. All ships report ready. The quantum coordinates from the distress signal are locked in. Marcus took a deep breath. The next few minutes would be humanity's first attempt at faster-than-light travel using the alien coordinates. Either they would arrive to help their new allies, or they would die in the space between stars. All ships, this is Captain Marcus, he broadcast to the fleet. Our ancestors survived on a world that tried to kill them every day. They built these ships to protect their children. Now we use them to protect others. He paused, looking at the stars ahead. Jump when ready. 50 human warships, bristling with what aliens would call primitive weapons, vanished into the quantum void. The Deathworlders were on their way, carrying with them humanity's oldest tools, the ability to fight, and the will to protect others. The fleet had awakened. The galaxy would never be the same. The human fleet emerged from quantum space near the Centauri hub, and every crew member gasped at the sight. A massive space station floated before them, its crystalline spires stretching for hundreds of kilometers. But parts of it were dark and broken, showing signs of recent battle. Multiple contacts approaching. Lieutenant Roy announced on the terminus bridge. Energy signatures matched the allied species data we received. Captain Marcus straightened his uniform. Open communications on all frequencies they provided. The main screen lit up with an alien face. The being looked almost like living crystal, with transparent skin and glowing organs. Its voice was melodious, but filled with urgency. Human vessels, this is High Commander Lux of the Allied Species Council. Thank the stars you came. This is Captain Marcus of the Earth Defense Fleet. We're here to help. The alien's crystalline features shifted in what might have been surprise. You really are Deathworlders. Your bodies are so dense with muscle and bone. Please, dock with the hub. Time is short. As the Terminus and several other ships docked with the massive station, Marcus led a delegation to meet the Council. The human crew couldn't help but stare at the various alien species they passed. Some looked like living gas clouds, others like elegant plant beings, and some defied description entirely. The aliens stared back, many backing away slightly. Later, Marcus would learn why. To their enhanced senses, humans looked like walking furnaces of chemical energy and electrical activity. They had never seen beings that burned so bright with life. The council chamber was partly ruined. Emergency force fields held back the vacuum of space where parts of the wall were missing. Dozens of alien representatives sat in hovering chairs, their forms as varied as art in a gallery. Show them, High Commander Lux ordered. The chamber's center filled with a hologram showing dozens of worlds. As they watched, massive ships shaped like insects descended on each planet. The ships landed, and within hours, entire continents were stripped bare of all resources, including all life. The Unity consumes everything. A plant-like alien explained, its leaves trembling. Our weapons can't penetrate their shields. Most of us haven't had to fight a war in thousands of years. We evolved past violence, past conflict, past survival, Marcus said quietly. Yes, Lux agreed. We thought we had reached perfection. But now we face an enemy that only understands consumption and growth. We need. The alien seemed to struggle with the word. Warriors. A smaller alien floated forward. Unlike the others, it showed signs of injury. Its gas-like form was partly condensed into an ugly scar. I fought them, it said in a wisping voice. They adapt to energy weapons instantly. Their shields grow stronger with each attack, but they haven't faced physical weapons in so long. Marcus nodded, understanding now why Earth's primitive fleet might be their best hope. He pulled out his tablet and showed them the specifications of human weaponry. The aliens recoiled at first, horrified by the barbaric concept of kinetic weapons. But as Marcus explained the physics behind railguns and mass drivers, he saw understanding dawn in their alien features. Your bodies, Lux said suddenly. They're like your weapons. Physical, dense, strong. You still carry the tools of survival within you. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day, Marcus explained. We never evolved past the need to fight because there was always something to fight against. The council chamber erupted in discussion, alien voices mixing in a strange chorus. Finally, Lux raised a crystalline hand for silence. The Unity approaches the hub. They sensed our distress call to you. We have perhaps 3 days before they arrive. The alien's form glowed brighter. Will you teach us to fight again? Marcus looked at the faces of his crew, saw the determination there. They had come to help, but now they would also have to be teachers, showing these advanced beings how to reconnect with their own ancient strength. We'll teach you, Marcus said. But first, we need to prepare for battle. The old way, the human way. The Deathworlders had arrived, bringing with them the forgotten arts of survival. Now they would have to prove that sometimes the oldest ways were still the best ways to fight. The Unity arrived early. Their ships darkened the stars like a swarm of metal insects, each one larger than the biggest human vessel. The Centauri hub's sensors counted over 300 enemy ships. They're earlier than expected, High Commander Lux said, their crystalline form dimming with worry. They must have pushed their engines beyond safe limits. Captain Marcus stood on the terminus bridge, watching the swarm approach. How many ships do we have? 50 of yours. 22 of ours that still have weapons. Lux's voice was heavy. We're outnumbered 7-1. Marcus smiled. Then it's an almost fair fight. He turned to his crew. Battle stations. All ships, execute Plan Thunder. The human fleet spread out in an apparently chaotic pattern. The alien allies watched in confusion as the Earth ships seemed to drift randomly, their engines dark. What are you doing? Lux asked, alarmed. They're almost in range. Watch, Marcus said quietly. The Unity ships moved forward in perfect formation, their energy weapons charging. Green beams of light lashed out, but the scattered human ships were hard to hit. Then Marcus gave the order. All ships, fire Solution Alpha. 50 railguns fired simultaneously. 100-ton tungsten rods accelerated to near-light speed, their paths crossing in a complex web designed by Lieutenant Emma's new targeting computer. The Unity shields, perfected against energy weapons over countless battles, had no answer for simple physics. 20 enemy ships exploded in the first volley. Again, Marcus ordered. Solution Beta. Another volley. Another pattern. 15 more Unity ships destroyed. The swarm's perfect formation broke for the first time, trying to adapt to this primitive attack they had never faced. Their shields are changing. Lieutenant Roy called out. They're trying to create physical barriers. Marcus nodded, just as we expected. Lieutenant Emma, execute Phase 2. The human fleet's apparently random positioning suddenly made sense. They had arranged themselves in a three-dimensional net. As the Unity ships moved to escape the railgun fire, they flew right into pre-calculated killing zones. All ships, fire at will, Marcus commanded. Show them why Deathworlders never stopped building weapons. The space around the Centauri hub turned into a light show. Unity energy beams splashed harmlessly against newly developed human shields, while physical projectiles tore through the enemy fleet. The alien allies watched in awe as humanity's primitive weapons proved devastatingly effective. But the Unity was learning. Their ships began to move erratically, making targeting harder. Their new physical shields could deflect some of the smaller rounds. They're adapting, Lux warned, just as they always do. Good thing we planned for that, Marcus replied. Lieutenant Emma, show them your surprise. Emma's voice was calm as she activated her new weapon, launching gravity mines. Small pods shot out from the human ships, looking harmless compared to the massive railgun rounds. The Unity ignored them until they activated. Each pod created a tiny but intense gravity well, pulling Unity ships off course and disrupting their formation. Now, Marcus ordered, all ships, fire Solution Omega. This time, the railgun rounds were twice as large, their paths calculated to use the gravity mine's pull for extra acceleration. The Unity's adapted shields shattered under the impact. 40 ships destroyed in one volley. The remaining Unity vessels began to retreat, their perfect coordination broken. For the first time in their history, they had met an enemy they couldn't adapt to fast enough. They're running, Roy announced, disbelief in his voice. The alien council erupted in cheers, but Marcus wasn't celebrating yet. He had studied enough history to know better. They'll be back, he said to Lux, with new defenses against these tactics. The crystalline aliens' glow brightened, but now we know they can be beaten. And we have time. Time for you to teach us your ways." Marcus looked at the battlefield, where pieces of Unity ships drifted like broken insects. Humanity's primitive weapons had won the day. But this was just the beginning. "Send word to Earth," he ordered. "Tell them to send the training fleet. It's time to teach the galaxy how to fight the old way, the way that kept us alive on our death world." The first battle was over. The real war, and humanity's greatest challenge as teachers, was about to begin. Again, Lieutenant Emma shouted, "You can't just point and shoot. You have to feel the weapon's recoil, predict its movement." The training hall on the Centaurid hub had been converted into a massive combat simulator. Dozens of alien species struggled with what humans considered basic weapons. A plant-like being tried to hold a rifle, its vine arms trembling under the weight. 3 weeks had passed since the first battle with the Unity. Earth had sent their best combat instructors, along with manufacturing ships to build more primitive weapons. Captain Marcus watched from an observation deck as humanity taught the galaxy how to fight. "It's amazing," High Commander Lux said, floating beside him. "Some of these species haven't held a physical weapon in over 10,000 years, but they're learning." Below them, a crystalline alien finally managed to hit a target with a railgun pistol. The recoil knocked them back, but they stayed standing. Emma gave them a thumbs up, a human gesture that had quickly spread among the allies. "The Unity will return," Marcus said, "and they'll be ready for our current weapons. We need to wake up the fighting spirit in your people before that happens." In another part of the hub, human engineers were teaching alien technicians how to build simple but effective weapons. The aliens were shocked by how easy it was to accelerate a piece of metal to deadly speeds. Their own technology had become so advanced that they'd forgotten the basics. "Watch this," Marcus said, pointing to a new group entering the training hall. The gas cloud aliens, who had seemed least suited for physical combat, had made an unexpected breakthrough. They had learned to form themselves into living weapons, condensing their forms to launch small, dense projectiles of their own matter. "They're adapting," Lux observed, "not just learning our ways, but finding their own paths back to warfare." Marcus nodded. "Every species evolved from survivors. You may have moved past violence, but the instincts are still there, buried deep." The training wasn't just about weapons. Humans taught battle tactics, strategic thinking, and most importantly, the warrior's mindset. Many aliens struggled with the concept of controlled aggression, the ability to fight without losing oneself to violence. In the medical bay, Dr. Peters worked with alien scientists, helping them understand how to treat physical combat injuries, something their advanced healing technology wasn't designed for. They had to relearn the art of setting bones and stopping bleeding. "Your people are remarkable," Lux said, their crystalline form glowing with new patterns. "You've kept these skills alive for thousands of years, waiting for the day they'd be needed." "Not waiting," Marcus corrected. "Surviving. Earth never gave us the luxury of peace. Every day was a fight. Against gravity, against weather, against predators. We ended up stronger for it." A loud cheer erupted from the training floor. A team of mixed alien species had successfully completed their first combat exercise, working together in ways their ancestors would have found impossible to imagine. "We're getting reports from other training centers," Lieutenant Roy said, walking up with a tablet. "The plant species have started growing natural armor. The crystal beings are learning to focus light through their bodies as weapons. Everyone's finding their own way to fight." Marcus smiled. This was humanity's real gift to the galaxy, not just teaching them to use weapons, but helping them rediscover their own strength. Each species was awakening ancient instincts, combining them with their advanced technology in ways humans had never imagined. "The Unity thinks they can adapt to anything," Marcus said, "but they've never faced a galaxy that remembers how to fight. When they return, they'll find more than just human weapons waiting for them." High Commander Lux's glow brightened. "We're becoming something new. Not just advanced beings, not just warriors, but both." Below them, the training continued. The galaxy was remembering its strength, guided by the people who had never forgotten theirs. The Deathworlders were teaching more than combat. They were teaching survival itself. The warning came at midnight Earth time. Every sensor in the Sol system lit up with quantum distortions. The Unity had returned, and they weren't attacking the alien worlds anymore. They were heading straight for Earth. 1,000 ships, Lieutenant Roy reported, his voice tight. They've adapted their entire fleet. Captain Marcus stood on the terminus bridge, watching the tactical display. The Unity ships now had layered defenses, energy shields backed by physical barriers. They had learned from their defeat. They're trying to cut off the head of the snake, Marcus said quietly. They think if they destroy Earth, the rest of the galaxy will lose its teachers. High Commander Lux's image appeared on the main screen. We've mobilized every ship we have. The newly trained crews are ready. But we're still 3 hours behind the Unity fleet. The Unity had found a faster quantum path to Earth, one that the Allies couldn't use. They would arrive first, facing only Earth's defenses and the small human fleet that had remained behind. Admiral James's voice came over the command channel. All ships, battle stations, we need to hold them off until reinforcements arrive. Earth's orbital defense platforms powered up. They were older than the fleet, built during the darkest days of the Third Solar War, but they had been upgraded with new weapons, designed to work against the Unity's adapted shields. The Unity is broadcasting a message, Lieutenant Roy announced. Playing it now. A harsh, mechanical voice filled the bridge. Deathworlders, you have taught the weak to resist us. This cannot be allowed. Surrender your world, and we will make your death quick. Resist, and we will ensure your species knows pain beyond imagination. Marcus watched as Earth's remaining ships moved into position. 30 vessels against 1,000. The odds were impossible, but humans had never been good at accepting impossible odds. Sir, Emma called out, I've been studying their new formation. There's something odd about it. Marcus moved to her station. The Unity ships were arranged in a perfect sphere, their patterns more rigid than ever. They're overcompensating, he realized. They're so afraid of our chaos that they're becoming too ordered. What are you thinking, Captain? Admiral James asked. Marcus's mind raced. Everything they knew about the Unity flashed through his thoughts. Their perfect coordination, their inability to understand individual action, their fear of chaos. They think like a hive, he said slowly. Every ship moves in perfect sync. They've never faced an enemy willing to sacrifice themselves to win. He looked up at the Admiral. I have a plan, but it's a one-way trip. Understanding dawned in the Admiral's eyes. The Unity adapts to patterns, to strategies, but they can't adapt to someone choosing to die to defeat them. Marcus nodded. Permission to execute Operation Thunderstrike. There was a long pause. Then, permission granted. Godspeed, Captain. The plan spread quickly through the fleet. Every captain, every crew member understood what was being asked. They would not face death blindly. They would choose it, use it as a weapon that the Unity could never understand. All ships, Marcus broadcast. Load your cores for overload. Target coordinates are being transmitted. When your core goes critical, the explosion will create a quantum cascade. The Unity's perfect formation will work against them. Across the fleet, men and women said quiet goodbyes. They had known this might happen when they chose to fight among the stars. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't just their weapons or their training. It was their willingness to sacrifice everything to protect others. Unity ships entering firing range, Roy reported. Marcus took one last look at Earth shining below them. All ships, execute Thunderstrike. Show them how Deathworlders die. The human fleet accelerated to attack speed, each ship on a collision course with calculated points in the Unity's perfect sphere. They would not go quietly into the night. They would go out on their own terms, teaching the Unity one final, devastating lesson about what it meant to face the children of Earth. The Unity fleet never saw it coming. They had adapted to human weapons, human tactics, and human technology. But they couldn't adapt to human sacrifice. Captain Marcus watched his tactical display as the terminus accelerated toward its target point. Around him, 29 other human ships did the same, each aiming for precisely calculated positions within the Unity's sphere formation. Core temperature critical, Lieutenant Roy reported calmly. 1 minute to overload. Broadcasting final message to Unity Command, Emma announced. Her voice was steady despite knowing these were her last moments. Marcus's message was simple. You thought our weapons made us strong. But our real strength was always our will to protect others, even at the cost of our own lives. The Unity ships began to fire, their new weapons combining energy beams with physical projectiles. But they maintained their perfect formation. They couldn't comprehend an attack that required the attackers to die. 30 seconds, Roy counted down. Through the view screen, Marcus saw the Allied fleet emerging from quantum space behind them. Thousands of ships crewed by newly trained warriors. They were too far to help, but close enough to witness humanity's final lesson to the galaxy. 10 seconds, Roy said. Marcus stood from his captain's chair. It has been an honor, he told his crew. 5 seconds. High Commander Lux's voice came through one last time. We will remember. Now, 30 human ships detonated their cores simultaneously. The explosions weren't what mattered. It was the quantum cascade effect they triggered. The Unity's perfect sphere formation became their undoing as the quantum shockwave rippled through their linked ships. The effect was beautiful and terrible. Ships started disappearing, not exploding but simply ceasing to exist as the quantum cascade tore them from reality. The Unity tried to break formation, but their hive-mind connection only spread the effect faster. From the Allied fleet, now a safe distance away, High Commander Lux watched in awe as 900 Unity ships vanished in a web of quantum fire. The remaining 100 broke apart in panic, their perfect coordination shattered by the loss of so many connected minds. Then something unprecedented happened. The surviving Unity ships broadcast a surrender. We do not understand, the mechanical voice said. Why did they choose death? How do we adapt to an enemy that uses their own destruction as a weapon? The answer came from an unexpected source. One of the gas cloud beings, now a trained warrior, responded. You cannot adapt to sacrifice. That is what the humans taught us. Some things are worth dying for. The Unity fled, their hive mind broken, their perfect adaptation finally failing against something they could never understand. The power of individual choice and willing sacrifice. But the story didn't end there. 5 years later, the Centauri hub was rebuilt, greater than before. A massive memorial stood at its center, 30 pillars of earth stone, each inscribed with the name of a human ship and its crew. At its base, written in every language of the allied species, were the words, "They taught us to fight. They taught us to sacrifice. They taught us to live." The Unity never returned to known space. The tales of the Deathworlders' sacrifice spread through their hive mind like a virus, making them question their very nature. Some said that parts of the Unity began to develop individual thoughts, inspired by the humans who chose to die as individuals to protect others. Earth recovered and grew stronger. The loss of 30 ships and their crews was mourned, but their sacrifice changed the galaxy forever. Humanity was welcomed fully into the galactic community, not just as warriors, but as teachers who had shown that true strength came in many forms. High Commander Lux, speaking at the memorial's dedication, summed it up best. We thought we had evolved past the need for warriors. The humans showed us that being a warrior isn't about weapons or violence. It's about the will to protect others. They answered our cry for help not just with their weapons, but with their hearts, their courage, and ultimately, their lives. That is their legacy to the stars. And so the story of the Deathworlder fleet became legend, taught to every species in the galaxy, not as a tale of war, but as a lesson about the greatest strength of all, the power of choosing to put others before oneself.